All right, folks, the 2024-2025 NFL season is in the books, which means it is time to look ahead to 2025-2026. And good news for you, on the first Sunday without football in 6 months, it is only 197 days till the NFL kickoff. And this will be my last football-related video for a while here. I'll do a video prior to the draft and then a post-draft, but until then, I'm no more football-related videos here for a while from me. But today, I wanted to rank the top 10 contenders in the NFL for the 2024-2025 season. And what I did here was took the 10 teams that I thought had the best chance to win the Super Bowl in 2025, a year from now. So let's jump right into it. So before I get into this, there was one team that I really wanted to put in the top 10, but I just couldn't quite get there because of their quarterback situation, and that is the Los Angeles Rams. So right now, it looks like Stafford wants to be traded. It looks like the Rams want to trade him, but right now they're asking a first-round draft pick, and I don't think they're going to get that for a very old Matthew Stafford who's declining in talent. I don't see it, so I'm really kind of holding out to see what will happen there before I put the Rams in my top 10. But I thought they should have been in here, just couldn't quite get there with their quarterback situation. So at number 10, I put the Vikings, and I had 4 different teams here at any given time. So at one time I had the Bengals, I had the Chargers, I had the Broncos, and the Bucks, and I initially went with the Vikings out of those 5 teams. I love their wide receivers. I love their weapons. I think they're the best wide receiver core in the NFL. I've said that many times. They have some great pieces on defense, but this team is in a very tough division right now. Their schedule is going to be brutal, and I don't like their quarterback situation. If Darnold, who's now a free agent, if he's their starting quarterback, they can go 17-0 next year, and I'm still not going to think that they're going to win the Super Bowl after that terrible performance he had in the first round of the playoffs. They do have McCarthy, but he is going to be in his first year starting in the NFL if he is the starter, coming off a pretty brutal knee injury. So we'll see what they do at quarterback, but for right now, I've got the Vikings at number 10. At number 9, I've got the 49ers, and I think they could end the season a lot higher than this, but this 49ers team is going to look a lot different than it has in the past. The other day, Dre Greenlaw, very good linebacker, has said he has wanted to trade Deebo Samuel. They're openly looking for trades for him. Christian McCaffrey is entering a different stage of his career. Kittle's getting a little bit older. Trent Williams is going to get a little bit older. So this is a team that could look drastically different next year. And that's really why I have them number 9. Brock Purdy, they still have to sign him before the end of next season to a contract extension, and that could eat up a lot of cap room. So I've got the 49ers at number 9. I think they have the ability to climb a little higher. At number 8, I've got the Texans. They're in a very easy division, so they're going to be in the playoffs. They've got a great defensive pass rusher in Will Anderson Jr. and a lot of good defensive players. A quarterback who's very good in C.J. Stroud. He's now won playoff games in his first 2 years in the NFL. And I think they're solid all around. I do not like their offensive line. They really had a tough time running the ball and protecting C.J. Stroud, and that was ultimately a downfall. And I think right now in the NFL, the offensive line is really the hardest position group to change overnight. But I've got the Texans at number 8. At number 7, I have the Commanders. I love Jaden Daniels. I think he's very good. Now, they did go to the NFC Championship game this year, but I thought they did play a little bit above their talent level. Again, they're going to be in the same division as the Eagles, so I look for them to be in the wild card spot. They're not going to get a first-round bye. I think they still need a couple more drafts and a little more talent on their team, really, before they can make the next step. But Jaden Daniels is certainly a star, and he's going to be a great quarterback for a long time in the NFL. At number 6, I've got the Green Bay Packers. And this team was really close to eliminating the eventual Super Bowl champion Eagles when they're down their top 4 wide receivers. They basically had civilians out there playing wide receiver in that playoff game, and they were just a handful of plays away from winning that game. I like Jordan Love. I love their run game with Josh Jacobs. They've got some good defensive players. There has been some rumblings about them acquiring Max Crosby, which I think would be enormous for their team. But again, this team was just a couple plays away from beating the eventual Super Bowl champions when they were down their top 4 wide receivers. That's pretty tough to argue. Now, I still want to see Jordan Love get a little bit better and eliminate some of the mistakes, but I've got the Green Bay Packers at number 6. At number 5, I've got the Ravens. And this might be the best regular season team next year. They could go 15-2, 14-3, but I'm still not going to believe they're going to win the Super Bowl until I see Lamar Jackson put back-to-back great playoff games together. Lamar Jackson is great, but he kind of crumbles in the playoffs. And right now, the evidence is really mounting. Over 50% of his games, he throws more interceptions than touchdowns. That's kind of an alarming stat. And until I see it, I'm not going to believe that it's going to be done. I think they need to add a few pieces on defense. I think they could always add another wide receiver with Bateman and I'm sorry, it's slipping my mind. Zay Flowers, excuse me. But they're going to be the best regular season team, I believe, next year. But I'm not going to believe they're going to win the Super Bowl until I see him put together back-to-back great playoff games. At number 4, I've got the Chiefs. Now, the good news for the Chiefs is they got Rashid Rice coming back. And because he tore his ACL so early in the season, he will be 100% recovered. He looked like he was going to be a top 10 wide receiver. Xavier Worthy, towards the end of the year, was looking like a great wide receiver. So I think their wide receiver position is going to be pretty set. Now, the bad news. Travis Kelce is coming back, and I think he's kind of on his last legs. I thought he really ran out of gas, did not do much in the Super Bowl. He had some poor effort plays, and they are definitely need to reamp their offensive line. They're going to need a left tackle, but it's really hard to find a left tackle when you're drafting 31st, and there's 15 teams ahead of you that also need a left tackle. So that's going to be a difficult position to replace. But with Patrick Mahomes, Rice coming back, and Worthy, I think they're going to be very good next year. Number 3, I have the Lions, and I don't think any team in the NFL benefits from the players they're going to get back from injury more than the Detroit Lions. At one point, they had over half of their defense on IR, and it really showed against the Commanders when they lost in the playoffs. They could just not get off the field on fourth down. I think there was 4 fourth down conversions. The Commanders were 4 for 6 and fourth down in that game, and Aiden Hutchinson might be the biggest difference maker for this team next year. I think he's a top 5 pass rusher, and him alone, getting him back alone, is going to make an enormous difference for this defense. And I think the Lions will be right up there, competing with the Eagles for the NFC Championship. I love their running backs. I love their offensive line. They've got great weapons. They just need to get a few pieces back on defense, and I think they could be playing in the Super Bowl next year. And number 2, I've got the Bills, because they can't keep losing to the Chiefs, right? I mean, eventually they've got to win one. Josh Allen is too good not to make it to a Super Bowl. I think he's the most talented quarterback in the NFL right now. They've got some receivers that I'm looking to make a jump next year. They could use a couple more playmakers on defense. There's really no one on their defensive that really sticks out to me as who's going to change the game. If you were bringing in 40-year-old Von Miller on third downs to rush the passer, that tells me you need another pass rusher. But I have the Bills right now at number 2. And number 1, I have the Eagles. This team is loaded at every single position group. And when I look at where they're really strong, I think they have the best offensive line in the NFL, and I think they have the best defensive line in the NFL. When you got Carter on defense and some of their other playmakers on the defensive line, they are going to be in a really good spot to have some longevity. Now, they do have a couple positions that they're going to have to address. They have some key free agents on defense, including Bond, who had a huge interception in the Super Bowl, and also Josh Sweat, who was an absolute menace, harassing Patrick Mahomes the entire Super Bowl. So they do have a little bit of work to go. On the offensive side, they do have a free agent on the offensive line, and Lane Johnson, he could retire. He's been teasing retirement for a couple of years now, and he's been a staple on that offensive line for a long time. But Saquon Barkley, Hurts, and then you got their 2 wide receivers in Smith and A.J. Brown, and then all the playmakers they have on defense. They're absolutely loaded, and they're going to be really tough to beat next year. So only 197 days, and we will talk to you around the draft.